So you can see from the drawing that I've got here today that it's very different bird.
Wow,
well, the
what
bird
a
we got given
struggle.
today was,
Peaks and
the word got
troughs.
given was
It's been a
mask,
bit
and
difficult,
I decided
to do one
to
every
do
day,
a
to have that
masquerade
commitment.
mask.
I've learnt that.
If
Wow.
you look at them, they're very, very colourful,
The whole
and they
idea of
have
doing
lots
this,
of
Jake
bird
Parker
ones.
said, is
So
to
I
get you
thought
into
it would
the
tie in
idea
really
of drawing
nicely
every day, to
with
get you into
the
it,
theme,
and to
I
use
did
a
the
material that you
beak
don't
as
often
part of the
use.
jigsaw puzzles.
That isn't
And
strictly
because it's
true, that you can
Halloween,
use other
I
materials. You
decided
can use it in
to
October
put
if
a
you
pumpkin
are getting used
in
to
the background,
watercolours
so it
or
looks like the
acrylics
mask
or
is actually on a
doing
pumpkin.
digital
So
art,
acknowledging that it's
any of those
Halloween
things.
plus the
But I
end of
don't
Ink
work with
October.
ink very
And
often,
what great
so
fun
for
have I
me
had
it was
doing
a
this little
charge
series.
to work with
In
a
fact, I'm
medium I
going
don't
to
work
miss
very
it now
often.
it's over.
What I have
It's
learned
been
from
hard
this
work
is I
and at
used
times
an A3 piece
a
of
bit
multimedia
challenging
paper,
because life
which
gets
I
in the
would probably
way.
change to an A2
But for those who follow
watercolour
me
piece of
on
paper,
YouTube,
because
can
then
I say
I would
that
have had
my
more
dad,
room. It was a bit
touch
difficult
wood,
trying to
is doing a
get them all
great
in.
recovery. And
interesting
next week
using
he
a
should be
jigsaw
driving his
puzzle as a
car.
starting point
So it's
as well,
been a
because
bit
that's an
touch and go
irregular
with this
shape,
series, with
and it
hospital
doesn't
visits and planning and children and other things. But hey, we got to the end of it. And I've had some lovely comments from this series from different YouTubers. I have learned a lot from them as well, which has been pretty awesome. And I just hope that you've enjoyed this as much as I've enjoyed doing it. And if you think anybody would benefit from watching it or would enjoy watching this series, please pass me along and get them to have a look and maybe subscribe at the same time. So what I thought I might do is I might recap on some of the little birds that I've done, some that I thought that come out well, some that haven't come out well, and my thoughts on Ink October. So my first thought on Ink October is, if you're going to do it on a sheet of paper, make it A2. I chose A3, and it was a bit of a struggle to get all the jigsaw puzzle pieces to actually fit onto the paper, and so I had to change some of the jigsaw puzzle sizes, and it was a bit challenging because jigsaw puzzle pieces are really different shapes, and so some of them didn't quite fit in with the bird shapes. But never mind, we've got there in the end, and that's the main thing. Although it's hard work and challenging, it's also been fun, and it gets you into the habit of drawing every day. But hopefully you wouldn't have to edit every day, because I must admit the drawing side of it was brilliant, but the uploading and editing and narrating, and that is a lot more difficult. But the actual drawing every day is brilliant. So the other thing I would do is, because I used inks, now the purpose of Ink October isn't necessarily to work with ink, it's to get you more accustomed to working with materials that you're not quite used to. And I haven't worked in inks for a very, very long time. It's not really my go-to medium, but I have learned a lot by doing it, and I think I will include it in my artwork. I think it's a really useful tool. I would use watercolor paper next time, probably a hot press, which is a flat finish, because the ink is quite concentrated. By using the watercolor paper, it would soak it in and give much more of a deeper colour in the illustration. But hey, that's something to think about next time, and you never know, by October next year there might be something new that I might want to practice and use this. But can I just say a big congratulations for everybody that completed this, big pat on the back, because it is a big commitment. And can I say, can we give a big cheer for all the people that are going to start the November writing challenge, because they have to do 1,600 words a day, resulting in 50,000 words. So that's a big enough challenge on its own. So all of you budding authors out there, here is a pat on the back and a cheer forward for you. And for all of those of you at Inktober, a big pat on the back and a cheer for those of you that have started, finished, gone all the way, did every other day. So anyway, without further ado, let's look back at the list. Now, the first bird on the list for me was swift, and I did a little blue swift. And the second word was divided, and I told a story about the two parrots that were divided because of their colour, which is a bit of an insightful one about us as human beings. The next one was poison, and my poor little parrot got poisoned in that one, and I did a reading from Alice in Wonderland. Not the easiest of books to read from when you're dyslexic, but I hope you enjoyed that reading. I'm just looking at the pictures now, and I must admit the parrots and the swift are two of my favourites. The next word was underwater, which I chose to do a penguin and talk to you about the day in the life of a penguin, which I spent at Bristol Zoo while at university. That was a bit difficult, that one, because of the shape. The next one was long, and I chose a flamingo for long, plus the worst possible passage from Alice in Wonderland, which was nonsensical and very, very hard to read. So I give myself a pat on the back, because obviously people did understand it, and it's quite a good picture. I did enjoy it. So flamingo was long. The next word we got given was sword, and I talked about the heron that visits the pond and how their beaks stab like a sword into the water to get the fish. Okay, then the word shy took us all the way back to Wigan, which was a mining town, and how the strange dark shed at the bottom of my neighbour's garden was a mystery, but inside was full of canaries, and they were bred for their song, which helped the miners down the mine. So intriguing. Then we had crooked, and I looked at the wader bird and how he wanted to be like the ducks and the swans and be able to stay on the ice, but because he's not got webbed feet like they have, he slipped and slided all over the place and became quite a superstar on the pond by accident. The next one was Screech, and I told you about the story of Tuppence, the owl that we had when we were small, and my brother quite liked that one as well, and he remembered quite a lot about Tuppence. And that's when I found out my brother was actually watching these too, which I was thrilled about, because, you know, you like to impress your little brother, don't you? Though he's not so little really, he's a lot taller than me. My little daughter says to me, how come he's your little brother when he's so much taller than you are? From a children's perspective, it was quite funny, I must admit. The next word we had was gigantic, and I did an ostrich, and he's one of my favourites as well. He came out quite well as well. And I told you about Mr. King, my English and Latin teacher, who gave me lots of inspiration about being a teacher and class management when I went into teaching. So shout out to Mr. King, who's probably long dead. And if he's in any place, another place, and he's watching these, I expect he's laughing his socks off. Then can everybody's favourite, Roadrunner, because the word got given was road. It was run. Wasn't road, it was run. And because my favourite Warner Brother cartoons is Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner, I thought that was absolutely brilliant to put Roadrunner in. So, and thanks to some comments as well, I learned a lot about the coyote, which isn't an animal we have in England. So yeah, that was great to learn some more information about them. Then I told you about the little pied woodpecker in the wood that made so much noise that his beak shattered when the animals in the wood decided to give him a challenge to see if he could put a hole in the hardest wood. Pride becomes before a fall. The next word we got was teeming, and I looked at when birds roost at night and the amazing patterns they make in the sky. And if any of you get time, please look out and stop and look at this amazing phenomena. It is truly awesome. Then we had fierce, and I looked at the bald eagle because out of all the birds in the sky, to me he seemed quite proud and fierce and regal, so I used him in that word. Then we got given mysterious. Now, the only mysterious bird I could think of was a dodo, because there is only 5 stuffed dodos left in the world, and one of them is 5 miles away from where I live in Oxford, and it's still very much a mystery today, and they haven't found any skeletons of them to make a complete dodo. So that's really apt. For the word fat, I used the blue tip, because the blue tip, back when milk used to be delivered, used to find all the milk bottle caps, and he used to drink the top of the milk. He used to peck at the tin foil and drink all the fat, the top of the cream. So this little bird was quite apt for the word fat. Now, the only bird you could possibly look at for the word graceful is a swan. And here in England, they are owned by the Queen. But in fact, they are a goose. They are the biggest of all the geese family. The next word we got was filthy. Now, I did think about doing a duck, but I thought that was a little bit obvious, and I had other plans for a duck. So I used a swift, because they make their houses out of mud, and they live in muddy banks and sandy banks, so I thought that was quite fitting and quite unexpected. Now we start to look at the birds that are record breakers. The word we got given was cloud, and believe it or not, a vulture is the highest flying bird in the world. How awesome is that? The other record breaker, it was the guillemot, which I use for the word deep, because that is the deepest diving bird in the world. Pretty awesome, those two, straight after each other, the highest and the lowest. Now, Daffy Duck was the duck that I used in the word furious, because Elmer Fudd, let's face it, he really does get angry trying to catch Daffy Duck. And again, he's another favourite. Another word we got given was trail. And I used the Canadian geese for this, because in the springtime we see them fly over in great waves. And in the winter when they go home, again, they cross our skies in great waves again. So they seem to be the best ones to use for the word trail. Juicy, one of my favourites, the crow, and how he uses stones to actually raise the water level so he can have a drink. And my brother says that the crows that he has in his garden has actually worked out how he can push the fat ball up to the top of the fat ball cage and plop it out and fly it off with it. So he's had to make amendments to the fat ball cage so the other birds get much more of a chance of eating it. Then we put on our Sherlock Holmes thinking caps to find a bird that would fit with the word blind, and we found the cuckoo. Sorry if I've said it wrong again, but no one's said anything. And this is a bird that lives nocturnally and is only awake in the nighttime hours, and he's practically blind in the daytime. Plus he gives off a foul smell like rotting stuff, so he won't be eaten when he's on the ground. That was a real discovery for me. Really impressed with that one. Then we had the keeper of lost sailors' souls, the albatross, and that also is a record-breaking bird because Wisdom, the albatross, is the longest living wild bird to date, and she was ringed in 1956. Then we got Squeak, and I thought that would be fun to use the myna bird because they talk. Imagine a myna bird with laryngitis. That would be awesome. But again, I learned something new too, that a myna bird is a real pest in Australia. Who would have thought it? There you go. The next word we got given was climb, and I did a tiny, tiny little bird, the tree creeper, which hops along a tree trunk without actually falling down. Quite the circus act. The next word we got given was fall, and I decided to use the falcon because the way it plummets from the sky is awesome. Plus, two of my favourite films and a book, both are from the falcon family, and that is Kess and the Maltese falcon, so I had to include them. And then we have Henry and his many wives, which the word we were given was unite, and I chose to talk about the lovebirds that my mum had when we were growing up. The last bird I decided to do in this series was magpie, and that was for the word found. And the magpie is called a magpie. Well, I don't know why it's called a magpie, but when people squirrel things away, they are called magpies, and magpies love to find shiny objects. Plus the nursery rhyme I really love as well, so I decided to use those. And that is the myriad of birds that I have done for Inktober. So it's been quite a quest, and I have really enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoy this last bird that I'm doing now, the masquerade bird. I thought I would do just a little bit of a longer one now, because just as the end of the series. And I wonder what words will be given next year. Quite interesting. I'm quite excited about the prospect now. Now, Jake Parker did say to anybody doing Inktober, because it is so full on and not everybody comes to an end, that he might do Slow November, where you get to draw 5 things over the 5 weeks slowly, and that's more achievable. I don't know whether Jake will be doing that, but I would very much like to be part of that. So even if he doesn't, I think I might start it up anyway, because it's a great way to get a more in-depth drawing done, and I can post it up for you and maybe have a little chat. For those of you who have just discovered my YouTube channel, please do look at some of the other arty vlogs and process videos I have done, not just this one. And I would like it if you would like to like, thumbs up, but most of all subscribe, because I do enjoy doing these. And I am in the process of illustrating a book called Harry's Prince. There is a vlog on YouTube if you'd like to check it out, but he will be on my Patreon page, and if you'd like to become a patron, you can watch me illustrate the book, and that would be quite fun as well. And also on Patreon there will be different drawings and processes that are not on YouTube. So why not hop between the two of us? So as you can see, this picture is nearly completed. The background paper, I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Alex, who has an amazing front room, and the wallpaper she has is birds, and we're doing a community project together, a print shop work for 5 weeks, and she was sorting out some papers that we could use, and she pulled out a roll of newspaper, of this wallpaper, and I said, please Alex, can I have a piece of that wallpaper, because it would make a fantastic background to the last painting. And it is in fact trees. I don't know if you can see that very well at the moment, but anyway, so as I put my inks away, please like, thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you next year. Bye bye folks, bye bye.